Welcome to the inaugural Do Hard Things podcast. This is something that been trying to figure out how to do for probably 6 months now, and really started to get a little bit more engaged in it over the last month. And I wanted to start this off with having a conversation with a guy that I work with here in the US Central, who's the area partner development manager leader for AWS partners, Ray Null. Ray, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Just want to make sure this is working. Excellent. Ray, I really want to help you get through this very first conversation that we're having together. I know this is unusual, and you probably haven't had a lot of experience with it either, which makes you a perfect candidate for me to walk through this inaugural conversation. I really want to talk a little bit about the motivation behind what it is that we're trying to do, and see if maybe we can make this a little bit more conversational, and improve upon it from this initial podcast. And really, the thing that has prevented me from really getting into this thing, I apologize for that. What's prevented me from getting into this thing initially has been my lack of understanding of what the platform really is and the process really is. And part of that is overcoming a little bit of fear of not knowing something, perfectly well. So I'm in that discomfort zone, so to speak. And I wanted to ask you, Ray, do you ever find yourself dealing with something that you're uncomfortable with? And what do you do to overcome that, discomfort?
Yeah, no, it's relevant. I mean, I I feel like I have two daughters, so I feel like I go through this all the time, constant state of fear. But seriously, I'm a fairly new manager. I've been at Amazon about 6.5 years. About 3 of those years, roughly, have been in management. It's my first management role ever. And so, two things: one, managing was uncomfortable and scary, and then two, managing an Amazon can be an extra layer of uncomfortable and scary on top of that. There's so many great managers here and so many people I respect so much, that the bar is set really, really high. So your second part of your question is, how do you overcome that? A lot of it is the willingness to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and knowing that a lot of these things that you go through, other people have went through before you. I know, Mike, you and I talked several times in a mentored relationship. You've had a lot more experience in management and people management than I have. I've talked to other people on the team that have, and being willing to, I know it's not a leadership principle anymore, but I'm vocally self-critical a lot. It's okay to be wrong, as long as you're not wrong a lot. There's another LP worked in there: be right a lot. It doesn't say be right all the time, because no one is right all the time. But managing and then the second part of that, I think, would be managing as I like to be managed. I've learned, quite frankly, I've learned that to be slightly effective and sometimes not. And what I mean by that is, not everyone's like me. And so I can't treat everyone like I like to be managed, because then they might balk against that, like too much freedom, and they don't have direction. And where I love a lot of freedom, and that's opposite. So that's another thing that I've learned along the way is once again, tying back into doing hard things, doing things that are uncomfortable, is just do them, and then trust. Especially at Amazon, people are going to give you feedback, whether you want it or not. They will give you feedback, and feedback is a gift. And so understanding that cycle comes back to me, and as long as I'm willing to accept it, I'm going to get better.
Well, you are bringing up some interesting pieces of information and some concepts around trusting yourself. Um, I think, you know, actually extending a little bit of your own vulnerability and sharing that with people is probably kind of helpful for you to um, elicit some trust within people. And uh, nobody really has all the answers. That's at least what I found out. And over the course of the last few years that I've kind of been thinking about all of this stuff, I've been trying to understand what it is that gets people past that period of uncomfortableness. And some people can do it without learning anything new. They just go and jump into the abyss and expect that things are going to work out fantastic. And others go into it very tentatively and expect lots of problems. And I believe that there's probably a great lesson that can be learned from people who have done it before, that you don't have to necessarily struggle in order to succeed, but you also can't expect it to be perfect right from the get go. And it's 100% why, I've adopted this mantra of do hard things, because I don't think that anything worth doing should be easy. I think anything that's worth doing should be hard. And if you set the mindset early that I've got to prepare to do something and I expect that it's going to be hard, you're going to prepare for it to be hard. And often you'll be surprised. So, I appreciate you pointing a couple of those things out, because as we develop this concept of do hard things, I want to use it as the underlying message for our ability to find inspiration in some of the things that we do as leaders. And not necessarily, if you don't have to have the title of CEO or president or founder to be a leader. It's a mindset, and it's a way that you comport yourself. I think that matters. So that's the inspiration piece of it. But doing hard things also is around, how do you make it easy to let other people know what it is that you're trying to do? How do you simplify things rather than complicate things? And there's an aspect to do hard things that will be around informing people about, who you are. How can we quickly and easily make people aware of the people and the organizations and the roles that are within our sphere of this cloud business, to let people start to consume a little bit about who you are as quickly or as deeply as they want to. And then the other piece of this would be around immersing some folks who are now a little bit more familiar with who the companies are and the opportunities and solutions that are available. How do you immerse yourself into some of the technical aspects of what we do in the cloud? So there's that third component of do hard things, which is making it easier to take this difficulty of understanding the cloud, demystifying the cloud, and really working with people who have done this many, many, many times, and identifying what some best practices are to to make it work to your advantage. And I thought that maybe putting together this podcast, Ray, with two people who have never done it before, and just start to have that conversation, we can launch this and see the direction that it goes, and see if other people find it interesting, and then start to build up from that. Um, One of the things that I really want to do right now is just touch upon uh, who we are, what we do, and maybe what the difference is between who we are and what we do, to allow other people to understand what the difference is between a partner development manager is at AWS and a partner success manager. And what I thought I'd do is I just, ask you to give me your opinion of what a partner development manager is and see if we can synthesize that into something easier for people to understand.
Yeah, yeah, no, sure. So first off, I want to address something right up front. You have to have a great haircut just like this to work at Amazon.
Yes.
It's mandatory. You come in. It's very much like the military. We shave your head. No, I'm just kidding. Don't go and tell Jeff Bezos that. But
Right.
even though he has the same haircut, so maybe it's fine. I don't know. Um,
Smooth.
but seriously, I think it's interesting to have a little bit of a history lesson. Rewind 6.5 years ago, I walk into the Dallas office, which really wasn't an office. It was a co-located space inside of a partner's office. We didn't have any dedicated space of our own, and there was 8 people in the room, and they're like, "Welcome to Amazon." And I said, "I think I made a huge mistake. I don't know why. What did I do?" But obviously, fast forward, and I think it was a good choice. But back then, there was one role. There was PDM, and in fact, there were only 8 PDMs in the entire country. 2 of those being managers. So if you're looking at people in the field actually doing the work, it was no other way to put it, but very reactive. And the demand was skyrocketing. And so it was basically my boss at the time said it was like getting in a NASCAR every morning, buckling up and just going 200 miles an hour around the loop until you're done. You get out and you do it again, and you do it again, you do it again. And it's very much like that. But as we went through the maturation process that pretty much every company goes through from startup, which AWS was way back in 2006, to now, is okay. What we have different functions, right? The PDM, Partner Development Manager, and you have another side of the Partner Development Manager, which had yet been named, but it was closer to the sales function, right? Inside of the opportunities, inside of the deals. How do you serve 2 masters, right? And the reality is you can't do it both. You can't do both well. And so what we ended up doing is doing an okay job at doing both. And so our leadership, I thought, had a very good vision and said, why don't we just make a separate role and call that role the Partner Success Manager? And so the PSM role was born. And this role, I'll let you go into exactly more about what it is exactly and the roles and responsibilities, but it was meant to be closer to the sales organization, aligned directly to sales management, and understand deeply the opportunities out there in the market and where partners can fit in, right? And then the PDM org, being inside alliances, was meant to build bigger. I just make it very simple. We're here to build bigger, faster, stronger partners to help serve our customers. And when I say our customers, I mean partners in AWS as customers, not just singular. So if you want to look at it as something, a virtuous cycle, which we like talking about at Amazon. So you start there and you turn it around and you come in at the top and say, what are the opportunities that we can help our partners generate that go back into the top of that funnel, and then feed back down. So the downstroke is the feeding through the funnel to the final completion, and then the upstroke is going back through the partner development side of things. So that was a little bit from a history perspective,
Yeah.
also a little bit about like what PDMs do on a day-to-day basis. I'll kick it back over to you from a PSM perspective. Sure. On that side.
Well, first off, let's unpack a little bit about what you were talking about, because the partner. I love the history lesson too. By the way, a lot of people think that these large organizations, have a fully baked, channel business or partner business, and in reality, what we have is something that we're building as we grow, and we've been doing it rather quickly when you compare it to some of the larger companies that have been doing this for some time, larger logo companies that have been doing this for some time. They've got partner practices and reseller practices that have been doing this for 40 and 50 years. And we've really been operating this around 12 years now, maybe even less with the channel business. It's incredible to see what we're doing. And what I see, having been here for 4 years now, is a tremendous focus from the practice building that I see the partner development team really focusing on, which is building the right infrastructure, the right business for cloud, and turning it into a opportunity to monetize that. How do you go in and now take that practice and go make money with it? And that is where I think the bifurcation between partner development and then partner, let's call it what it is, partner sales, but the partner success team uh, accelerating the opportunities that the partners are identifying or originating, and helping to um, launch those opportunities successfully with customers. And I see that we're now getting to a point where, I mean, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of partners, and there's no shortage of people that are looking to actually start to build a practice, because the cloud business is starting to really take off. And while we think that it's, everybody knows all about it, in reality, it's probably a fairly small number comparative to the whole IT spend that is, consumed every year. It's a pretty small number when you're looking at $100 billion against $2 or $3 trillion a year of IT spend being, leveraged by the cloud. And people are now starting to pick this up and are looking to build a practice on it. And that's what your team does. Your team helps to practice or help them build that practice. But what happens once they're ready and they've got competencies and capabilities to deliver in the cloud? How do we help them actually take that to market? And that's where partner success comes in. And this partner success role has only been around for, what is it now, 2.5 years, Ray?
Yeah, 2.5, 3.
2.5, 3 years, where we've literally bifurcated the two roles. And now what we're doing is driving um, more uh, focus from the partner success side on the opportunities that are now being identified that our partners engage in. And there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. First off, we have to have partners that have capabilities to deliver. And there are many partners that simply only want to deliver. They don't necessarily want to resell. They've got great capabilities. They may be specialized in a particular vertical or an industry or a particular skill. And they just want to set up their practice to deliver with customers that have that need. And that is a great way for us to introduce partners that can help AWS scale by plugging them into opportunities that we uncover, AWS originated opportunities that customers have identified they've got a need, and now they need to know who can deliver that to them. Um, the other side of the coin is there are partners that are generating their own demand. They have customers of their own, and they're looking to deliver a solution for cloud on AWS. And what we're trying to do is help them accelerate those deals by providing them with um, funding to help them do proof of concept, to do opportunity acceleration, and to bring in resources to help bring those prospect opportunities to launch successfully. And that would require a pipeline of opportunity to be filled up, and some type of marketing and campaigning to generate that demand. And The partner development team is doing a great job of working with partners who have a solution that they would like to sell. Combine that with some marketing and demand generation, an opportunity gets generated. And what we do in the partner success team is then take those opportunities and help make those a launched opportunity successfully. And I think the role is confused. I think there are people that get confused by the fact that there's PDM and there's PSM. Why can't we both do the same thing? But I think what we're trying to articulate is that there are different roles to play when you're building a practice, all of the things that you need to make certain that you need to build a practice, which doesn't necessarily correlate with how you then take that practice and monetize it. And that's a more of a sales and marketing type function. And it takes two different types of people to go do that. What's your experience been with that bifurcation over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was not just because it exists and we lead these two different teams, but I do think it was the right call, right? It just drives a lot of clarity internally. And whenever I work with, there's all the time CEOs of major partners ask me, what is the best way to work with Amazon? We love PDMs. You all are helping us a lot. We see the value there. We get it. We get the role. But PSM, like what is our interaction? Should our interaction be with them? And then another thing they'll quickly follow up with in the field motion is, I want to talk to the account executive. And it's funny because it's almost the opposite at Amazon than other companies. Is they're used to going and let's just go talk to the account executive. But the reality is, with the number of partners, we have tens of thousands of partners, right? And if everyone wanted to talk to all of the account executives would never get to talk to customers, right? They just constantly be fielding calls from all these partners. So that's another function of the PSM is categorizing, stratifying, and prioritizing this incoming pulse of the field. Right? Not
Yep.
all of these are created equal. I think we have been around long enough to say that, and that the ones that are qualified and there's a customer need there and we want something to work on, that the PSM is a scaling mechanism, because I get pushback from partners in a PDM perspective saying, well, I just want to talk to the AE, and I'm like, but the PSM is actually whenever an AE or multiple AEs, let's just say you have 2 district managers, each of them have 10, for easy math, 10 directs, and you have 20 account executives, they turn to the PSM and say, is this real? Should I be working with this partner? Is this a good call? Is this a bad call? Like, what are your thoughts? What are your interactions with partner X? I won't even call one out. So I think it's a scaling mechanism, and it's time well spent, right? Instead of having 20 separate meetings with 20 separate people, have one meeting or 2 meetings or a cadence of meetings with a PSM that can help you scale inside of an entire area. So I think the
Yeah.
PSM role is critical, and there's no way that we could have scaled even with massive hiring, double, triple, quadruple our number of PDMs, and done that type of role effectively. I think the split was necessary, and then it allowed sales to scale into a partner motion. In fact, wanting a partner-led motion, and then PDMs continue to do what they do best, which is laying foundations and then also feeding partner-led opportunities back to the field.
Yeah. So I think what you've uncovered. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, Ray. And if we bring it full circle back to why are we doing hard things? This isn't easy. This stuff is not all that easy, and it's worth doing, and it's worth doing well. And the only way that we can really get good at what we're doing is to put the brute force effort required to understand it, to experience it. And I think that ties back to the mantra being it. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that it needs to be unpleasant. you can get a lot of enjoyment out of working out. Yeah, you're sweating a lot, but you get a lot of physical benefit out of it. It's the same with trying to figure out how to make this a little bit more of a well-oiled machine. Um, you know, when you think a little bit bigger about how things are being done, or you're trying to simplify some of the things that are happening into something that can be done more quickly or more easily, you get some satisfaction out of that. And what I'm, hopeful that we're able to do, and by the way, this is just the platform that is going to allow us to have these kinds of conversations so that we can iterate and actually innovate every time we're getting to understand a little bit better about what has been working, what's not been working. Then I think what we're able to do is evolve, and that's really what this is all about. Um, Thinking bigger and identifying things that people previously thought were impossible is 100% what it is that I'm hoping that we can accomplish. Um, you know, right now, people consider it impossible to solve all the problems. Well, is it impossible to solve one problem? Can we focus on at least one problem and work a little bit harder to come up with the answer to that so that we can then attack the next problem? And I really feel like um, if you have a vision, if you've got some view of what you would like to have accomplished, you can work backwards from that. And I really think that we can have an entire episode on working backwards because, in theory, it sounds great. But I think the most difficult thing in the world for people to do is actually have a vision because of all sorts of reasons. One being, people are actually afraid to share their vision for fear of judgment. And, that's part of that lizard brain talking where you're just, you're afraid of change and you're afraid of people not agreeing with you. But if you can get beyond that, come up with a vision of what you think is successful, then you can work backwards from there to start attacking the problem and get to something that is, you know, um, you'll hear me say this quite a lot, but something that's glorious, and that's really what we're trying to get to. So I wanted to bring up one thing that is absolutely crucial for any of this to work, and I think it's discipline. I think you need to have some discipline in your life in order for you to achieve anything significant. And I think a lot of people look at the term discipline with maybe a negative connotation. Like if you do something wrong, you're disciplined. And I'm not trying to bring it up in that way. I'm thinking about discipline in the terms of you are creating some structure and you're adhering to that structure because it will give you the muscle and it will give you the strength to do something that does require that. And I know that if you have just a little bit of discipline in your personal life, it's probably going to bleed over into your professional life. And what I really want to talk to you about, Ray, is you and I are about to do something pretty difficult, um, which required a tremendous amount of discipline during a pretty difficult time with COVID-19. And that is training for your first Ironman. Tell me a little bit about what that discipline has been for you and how does that bleed into your professional life?
Yeah, so it's been a journey. Obviously you're a super humble guy, but you've done several Ironmans, and so I saw that and I thought that was pretty cool. It's an elite thing to do. There's very few people in the world. If you add them up, all the Ironmans and ever, it's like a very, very small percentage of the population. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And, I agree with you. I think the discipline has helped a lot of ways. There's a line from a movie, We Were Soldiers, and it talks about, does your, how does being a soldier relate to being a father? And the response from Mel Gibson was, I hope that one makes me better at the other. And so I draw that into this context of, I hope that, some of the things that I do in my personal life make me better in my professional life, and being able to get through this. You brought up an extraordinary time, and no one's ever seen anything like what we're going through with this global pandemic. It's hard for me to talk about with my kids, because a lot of times I try to impart wisdom of, when I was young, we did this. And the reality is, I can't talk to it. There wasn't a global pandemic in 1980 or 1990 or any time that I was alive. The Spanish flu, I guess, was way back in 1912. And contrary to popular belief, I was not born back in 1912. So I wasn't around for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that, the discipline is good. You use the term do hard things, but it can be applied to doing the things that have to be done to achieve your goal, even when you don't want to do them. And I've talked about that to partners, because I get asked all the time in many different settings, we want to be the best partner in the world. We want to be the number one with the bullet. Like, how do you do it? And, the question, the answer is always the same. It's have the discipline to realize that you're probably really, really good at one or two things, right? You might be able to do a lot of things. I can do a lot of things, but I'm really good about one or two things if I really am honest with myself. So I challenge partners to think about that. You said work backwards from that, have the discipline to stick to it. And we're not asking you to pigeonhole yourself into doing one or two things. When you earn trust with customers, what do? They invite you back. They want you to come back and do all the other cool things that you can do. And they'll just because you don't advertise it first or enter with it doesn't mean that you're not good at it, right? So tying that back to the professional, or excuse me, the discipline personally, I think helps me with discipline professionally, and then being able to be in a position to give some advice, to say, here are some things that you can do systematically that will make you a better partner.
Yeah, you really tied it nicely, because building a practice isn't an overnight endeavor. There are steps that you have to take along the way, and they're usually pretty small steps, but they have to be done repetitively and consistently. There's got to be a persistence to what you're doing that will get you from point A to point B. And I love the Iron Man analogy, because everybody wants to complete the Iron Man. And or people that have an interest in that want to get to that. They want to get to the finish line. And what they don't realize is that all that matters is getting to the start line. And the start line requires that you have spent enough time swimming, have spent enough time running. I mean, I'm talking 3, 6, 9-mile runs, not 26.2-mile runs every day. It's small, consistent efforts that build up over time that allow you to get to the start line, and that is the reward. Getting to do the race is the reward. And for me, it's the same thing with the job. It's the same thing with any role that you're in. Are you doing the little things consistently every single week? I like to say everybody loves to work on a, sunny Friday morning or a Thursday afternoon when everything is glorious. But, Monday mornings when it's raining, or Tuesday when it's raining and cold, can you put the same level of effort in the same simple things, but do it consistently, like water on granite, just wearing it down? And I believe that that discipline that people have in their personal lives, whether it is that they're a musician and they practice and they are training for a marathon, or they're a bodybuilder. If you are consistent about something in your personal life, it's going to give you the foundation to be consistent at doing something that's difficult in your work life. And I believe that nobody goes into something that they enjoy because it's easy. I think they know going into something that they want to do, they know it's going to be hard. And so they prepare for it. I would love to make the people that I interact with in business also recognize that business isn't easy. We shouldn't expect great success right out of the door. We should be ready and prepared for it to be hard, and be pleasantly surprised when it's not as hard as it turned, as we thought it would be. So I know, Ray, we're probably a little bit over time here. I I want to thank you for doing this difficult thing with me. This has been hard for me to actually plan. It's been difficult for me to actually admit that I want to do it, and it's been even harder for me to, um, make a commitment to do it. And it became so much easier when Chip was part of this, and gave me the support to continue to go do it. You volunteering to be the first person that we have this conversation with. And I'm really hoping that you become a part of this process as we move forward with it, because I think we're just scratching the surface in some of the things that we're going to be able to discuss. And hopefully people will start to be interested in it and will ask questions that maybe we can build entire episodes off of, to ultimately demystify what it is that we're trying to do, and share best practices on just how we get through all of the things in our lives that we are, struggling or challenged to do, specifically with work, with, initiative, with inspiration, and then what happens and how do we get through it when periods of motivation just disappear? What gets us through to the other side? And I'm looking forward to having some more conversations with you on that, Ray.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks a lot. Thanks for thinking of me and allowing me to be a part of the maiden voyage. Look forward to coming back.
You bet. All right, man. Chip, I think we're good to go.